Mostly bedrooms on the first floor. Are all fully fitted, the beds freshly made, though Dervish says only 4 or 5 of the rooms have been used since he renovated the mansion. Why bother with all the books then? I ask. If something's worth doing, it's worth doing right, he laughs. Some of the beds are 4 posters imported from foreign countries with histories as old and macabre as the house. It's only when Dervish is telling me about one particular bed in which a French aristocrat hid for 4 months during the Revolution that I think, how much do they cost? What do you do? I ask my uncle. It sounds ridiculous, but I don't recall Mum or Dad ever mentioning Dervish's line of work. I dabble in antiques, he says. Rare books are my speciality, particularly books regarding the occult. Dervish looks at me questioningly. We haven't mentioned demons since he picked me up at the Institute. He's offering me the chance to quiz him about them now, but I'm not ready to discuss Lord Loss or his minions yet. You must be good at it, to afford a place like this, I say, sliding away from the larger questions and issues. It's a hobby, he demurs, leading me down a long corridor full of framed portraits and photographs. The money's good, but I don't worry too much about it. And how do you pay for all this? I ask nosily. Dervish quickens his pace. I think he's avoiding the question, but then he stops at one of the older portraits and points at. Recognize him? I studied the face of an old man, lined quite a large nose, but otherwise unspectacular. Is he famous? I ask. Only to us, Jervis says. He was your great-great-great-grandfather, Bartholomew Gardex. That's our original family name on our paternal side. It got shortened to Grady around your great-grandfather's time? He pointed to a nearby portrait. That's him. Waving a hand at the hall in general, he adds, they're all part of our family. Garadexes, Grady's, Bells, Moores. If one of our relations has been photographed or painted, you'll most likely probably find them here. Returning to the portrait of my great-great-great-great-grandfather, he says, Bartholomew was a sublimely clever man. He started with nothing, but had amassed a fortune by the time of his death. We're still living off of it. At least, I am. Cal preferred to make his own way in the world and only dipped into the family coffers in emergencies. How much is left? I inquire. Quite a lot, Dervish says vaguely. Your great-great-grandfather, one of old Bart's boys, wasted most of it. Then his son, the one who changed the family name, restored it. It's been fairly constant since, much of it tied in bonds and properties, which yield in steady profits. Who does it go to when I stop and blush? I mean, who's your heir? Dervish doesn't answer immediately. He gazes at the face in the portrait as though seeing it for the first time. Then he looks away and says quietly, I have no children. I've willed my portions of the estate to various friends and causes. I always meant for the majority of my assets to go to Cal and his kids. Since you're the only survivor, my stomach tightens. Dervish sounds as if he's accusing me of caring more about money than my family. I'd swap any amount of a fortune if I could bring Mum and Dad and Gret back, I snarl. Of course you would. Dervish frowns, glancing at me oddly, and I realize I was only imagining the accusation. Let's go, Dervish says. There's another floor to explore and a cellar. A cellar? I asked nervously. Yes, he says. That's where I bury the bodies. I freeze, and then he has to stop and wink broadly before I catch the joke. Lots of storage space on the second floor. Rooms packed with crates, statues, boxes of books. There are a couple of small bedrooms, including Dervish's, and the centerpiece, his study. Unlike every other room in the mansion, Dervish's study is carpeted, and the walls are covered with leather panels. It's a colossal room, the size of 7 or 8 of the bedrooms, with 2 desks larger than most of the beds I've seen. There are bookcases, on which small numbers of books are carefully arranged. He has a PC, a laptop, a typewriter, several writing pads, and a multitude of pens. There are 5 chess sets in the room, each different. One entirely made of crystal, another with solid gold pieces. A sword and axe hangs from each wall, their handles encrusted with precious jewels, their blades gleaming brightly. This is wild, I grin, circling the study, checking out some of the book titles. All to do with ghosts, werewolves, magic, and other occult-related items. Some of my rarer finds, Dervish says, picking up a book and smiling as he flicks through it. The great thing about having loads of money is not having to sell to survive. Aren't you afraid of burglars, I ask? Wouldn't this stuff be safer in a museum? The contents of this room are protected, he says. Anyone breaking in is free to plunder the rest of the house as they please, but they won't take anything from here. What sort of security system do you use, I ask? Lasers? Heat sensors? Magic. I start to smirk, thinking this is another of his jokes, but his grim expression unnerves me. I've cast some of my strongest spells in this room, he says. Anybody who enters without my permission will run into serious obstacles, and I don't use that phrase lightly. Dervish sits in the large leather chair behind one of the desks and rocks lightly to the left and right as he addresses me. I know there's nothing as tempting as forbidden fruit, Grubstitch. But I've got to ask you not to come into this room when I'm not here. There are spells I can cast to protect you, and spells I can teach you when you're ready to learn. But it's safest not to tempt fate. Are you... I have to wet my lips to continue. Are you a magician? No, he chuckles. But I know many of the ways of magic. Bartholomew Garadex was a magician, among other things. There hasn't been one in the family since. Real magicians are rare. You can't become one. You have to be born to it. Ordinary people like you and me can study magic and make it work to an extent, but true magicians have the natural power to change the shape of the world with a click of their fingers. It wouldn't do to have too many people with that kind of power walking around. Nature limits us to 1 or 2 per century. I hate to say his name out loud, but I must. Is Lord Loss a magician? Dervish's eyes are dark. No. He is a demon master. He is as far advanced of magicians as magicians are of the rest of us. When I was escaping, I used magic to fit through the dog flap, he nods. Many of us have magical potential. It usually lies dormant. But the presence of the demons enabled you to tap into yours. The magic within reacted to theirs. Without it, you would have died along with the others. I stare wordlessly at Uncle Dervish. He speaks so honestly, so matter-of-factly, that he could be explaining a maths problem. There's so much I want to ask, so many questions, but this isn't the time. I'm not ready. I scratch my head and pluck a long ginger hair from behind my left ear. I rub it between my fingers until it falls, then face Dervish and grin shakily. I'll agree to stay out of your study if you'll do something for me in return. What? He asks, and I can tell he's expecting an overbearing request. Will you call me Grubs? I can't stand Grubbits. The cellar's full of wine racks and dusty bottles. My other great love. Apart from books. Dervish purrs, wiping clean the label of a large green bottle. He advances, lights flicking on ahead of him as he walks. I wonder if it's magic until I spot motion detection sensors overhead. Do you drink wine? He asks, leading me down one of the many rack-lined aisles of the cellar. Mom and Dad let us have a glass with dinner sometimes, but I don't really like it, I answer. Shocking, he tuts. I'll have to educate your palate. Wine is as varied and unpredictable as people. There are some vintages you just won't get on with, and no matter how famous or popular they are, but you'll always find something you like, if you search hard enough. He stops, picks out another bottle, appraises, and replaces it. I roam around for hours down here some days, he sighs. Half the pleasure of having such a fine collection is forgetting what's here and rediscovering it by accident years later. The choosing of a bottle can be almost as much fun as drinking it. He snorts. Almost. We return to the steps leading up to the kitchen, and he pauses. I have to ask you not to come down here either, he says. But this has nothing to do with spells or magic. The temperature and humidity have to be maintained just so. He pinches his left thumb and index finger together. I'm fairly easygoing when it comes to material possessions, but where my wine's concerned, I'm unbelievably cranky. If you caused an accident, he shook his head glumly. I wouldn't say much, but I'd silently despise you forever. I'll steer clear, I laugh. The off-license will do for me if I want to go boozing. Dervish smiles and leads the way up. The lights switch off automatically behind us, plunging the cellar into cool precision gloom. And that's it. Back where we started, the main hall beneath the giant chandelier, Dervish checks his watch. I usually have dinner anywhere between 5 and 7. You can eat with me. I'm a nifty little chef, if I do say so myself. Or do your own cooking and feed whenever you like. The freezer's stocked with pizzas and microwave dinners. I'll eat with you, I tell him. Then I'll shout when it's ready. In the meantime, feel free to explore, either inside or out, and remember, you can't come to any harm here. He heads for the wide set of marble stairs leading to the first and second floors. Wait, I stop him. You never showed me my room. Dervish slaps his forehead playfully. You'll get used to that, he chuckles. I'm forever overlooking the obvious. Well, there are 14 bedrooms to choose from. Any except mine is yours for the taking. You don't have a room set aside for me, I ask, surprised. I thought about it, he replies, but I decided to let you choose for yourself. You can test out as many as you like. If you want to stay on the upper floor close to me, you can, though the rooms are quite modest compared to those on the first floor. He tips an imaginary hat to me, then trots up the stairs to his study. Standing alone in the vast hall, the house creaks around me. I shiver, then recall Uncle Dervish's promise. I can't come to any harm here. I shake off the creeps before they have a chance to take hold. Picking up my bag, which I dropped by the front doors when I came in, I climb the ornate stairs and go to search among the beautifully kept, expansive array of rooms for one that I can dump my gear in